I shouldn't have stopped. That's the thought that keeps circling in my head. I could have just kept walking past her front gate, headphones in, pretending I didn't notice. But then I saw her, leaning on the wooden porch rail, the late afternoon light spilling across her hair, a paintbrush dangling loosely in her hand like she'd forgotten why she was holding it. "Could you help me for a second?" she asked, her voice a little strained, like she wasn't used to asking for favors. Her name's Claire. She lives 2 houses down, though we've never really talked beyond a polite wave. She's older, mid-40s maybe, always put together in a way that makes me straighten my shoulders when I see her. Today she wore a plain white shirt smudged with streaks of pale blue paint, sleeves rolled up, collar slightly undone from the heat. She looked different. Less untouchable. I dropped my backpack by the steps and climbed up. "What's wrong?" She gestured toward the ladder leaning against the wall. "It's not steady. I was trying to paint that corner, but—" Her words trailed off, and she didn't finish. Instead, she pressed her lips together and passed me the brush, almost too quickly, like touching my hand for even a second was something she shouldn't risk. The ladder groaned under my weight, and for a moment I thought I'd slip. She stayed below, one hand hovering near the side like she could steady both the ladder and me at once. "You don't have to." She started, then stopped. Her eyes flicked away, scanning the street as if she expected someone to be watching. "I don't mind," I said. My voice came out softer than I meant, but I didn't take it back. By the time I climbed down, paint flecks on my wrist, she'd set out 2 glasses of water on the porch table. We sat across from each other. The silence stretched, filled only by cicadas buzzing and the dull hum of a lawn mower from somewhere down the block. "You're at university, right?" she asked finally. Her tone was casual, but her fingers tapped the rim of her glass in uneven rhythms. "Yeah. Just started my 2nd year." She nodded, her gaze lowering to her hands. "Feels like another lifetime ago for me." The words hung there, heavier than they should have been. I wanted to ask her what she meant, what lifetime, what story she was holding back, but I stayed quiet. She had a way of speaking that made you listen more to the pauses than the words themselves. Then the breeze shifted, lifting a strand of her hair across her cheek. Without thinking, I reached out, brushing it back before I realized what I'd done. My hand lingered just an instant too long near her face. Her breath caught, almost imperceptibly, and for a second I thought she might lean closer. Instead, she pulled back slightly, standing abruptly. "Thank you for the help," she said too quickly. I rose too, heart thudding. "Any time." She looked at me then, really looked. Not the polite neighbor glance, not the casual small talk. Her eyes searched mine like she was deciding something. And then, quietly, almost like she regretted letting it slip, she whispered, "Don't walk away this time." The words froze me where I stood. I didn't know what she meant. Maybe I wasn't supposed to know. But the way she said it, like it had history, like it wasn't the first time she'd wanted to, changed everything. Her words echoed in my head long after she said them, "Don't walk away this time." It wasn't the kind of thing a neighbor says. It wasn't casual. It wasn't safe. I should have laughed it off, pretended I misheard, grabbed my backpack, and left. But instead I just stood there on her porch, caught in that strange silence she carried with her. Claire wasn't smiling, wasn't trying to smooth over what she'd said. She just looked tired, like she'd given away something she hadn't planned to. "I didn't mean to put that on you," she said at last, folding her arms loosely across her chest. "It's been a long week." "What kind of week?" The question slipped out before I could stop it. She glanced at the half-painted wall, at the empty street, anywhere but me. "The kind where you realize you're painting your own house alone because the person you thought would be here isn't anymore." I didn't know what to say to that. My chest tightened with a mix of sympathy and something else, something closer to wanting to step into the space she'd been left in. Her fingers toyed with her paintbrush, twisting it like a nervous habit. That tiny gesture told me more than her words. She was unraveling, just a little. I sat back down at the table, though she hadn't asked me to. You shouldn't be up on ladders by yourself anyway. Dangerous. She gave a small, humorless laugh. You sound like him. I tilted my head. Like who? Her eyes flicked to mine for half a second before she shook her head. Never mind. She took a sip of water, though her hand trembled faintly against the glass. I wanted to ask more, but instead I watched her. Really watched her. The way her collarbone caught the light as she leaned forward, the way her hair brushed her cheek whenever she looked down, the way her voice seemed both steady and fragile at the same time. And suddenly it hit me, this wasn't just a neighbor, not anymore. This was a woman sitting across from me, unraveling threads she probably hadn't shown anyone else. And I wanted to be the one she showed them to. Claire! I started, but my voice cracked and I stopped. She noticed. Her gaze lifted sharply, searching my face like she'd heard the part one didn't say. Then she set the glass down, stood, and walked past me toward the door. For a second I thought she was going to end it, retreat back into that private place she carried. But instead, she paused in the doorway and looked back at me. You don't have to rush off, she said softly. Her hand brushed my arm as she passed, feather-light, deliberate. Stay a while. My pulse jumped, and I couldn't tell if I was more afraid of leaving, or of staying. I told myself I'd stay for 10 minutes. Just long enough to be polite. But 10 turned into 30, and 30 felt like nothing at all when it was her across the table. We didn't talk about anything dramatic. She asked about my classes. I asked about the colors she was painting the house. It should have been harmless, ordinary. But it wasn't. Because every time her hand moved I noticed it. The way her fingers curled around the glass. The way her nails, chipped faintly with paint, tapped against the wood. Every detail tugged at me, and I kept catching myself staring too long. You ever feel like you're stuck? She asked suddenly, breaking the rhythm of our small talk. Her voice was softer now, almost careful. Stuck how? In a life that doesn't fit anymore. Like wearing clothes you've outgrown, but you keep them anyway because you don't know what else to wear. Her words pressed against something inside me. I could see it in her eyes. This wasn't about paint, or neighbors, or me helping with a ladder. This was her peeling back a corner of herself she usually kept hidden. I know what you mean, I said before I could think better of it. My chest tightened. Sometimes I wonder if I'm waiting for something, or someone, I can't even admit to. Her gaze locked on mine then, and the air between us shifted. My throat went dry. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. That was when the phone rang. The sound jolted both of us, sharp against the quiet. She stood quickly, almost too quickly, knocking her chair against the porch rail. I should get that, she said, but she didn't move right away. For a moment she stood frozen, caught between answering and ignoring, like either choice carried weight. Finally she turned and went inside, leaving me with the cicadas and the thud of my own pulse. Through the open window, I could hear her voice, lower, strained. Whoever it was, she wasn't happy to hear from them. I said it's over. She muttered sharply, then silence, then the click of the phone being set down harder than it needed to be. When she returned, she didn't explain. She just sat back down, closer this time, like the invisible line of distance between us had shifted. I'm sorry, she said, brushing it off, but her hand lingered on the table near mine. Close enough that if I moved half an inch, our fingers would touch. I swallowed hard. Claire, I started, but the rest caught in my throat. I wasn't supposed to want this. Not here. Not with her. She leaned in slightly, just enough for her shoulder to graze mine. The contact was brief, accidental maybe, but it burned. Her eyes flicked to my lips, then back to my eyes, holding there. I should have pulled away. Instead, I stayed. And in that small, dangerous silence, It felt like the next breath might decide everything. Her shoulder had barely brushed mine, but it was enough to undo every wall I thought I had. I could still feel the warmth of her skin long after she leaned back. We sat there, not talking, the kind of silence that didn't feel empty but dangerous, like it was waiting for someone to break it. Finally, she did. "You remind me of..." She stopped, pressed her lips together, shook her head. "Forget it." "Of what?" I pushed, my voice steadier than I felt. Her eyes flicked to mine, held, then darted away. "Of who I used to be. Before I started playing safe. Before I started settling." The honesty in her voice startled me. It wasn't something neighbors were supposed to say. It wasn't something she was supposed to hand to me so freely. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, searching her face. "Then why are you telling me this?" She hesitated, then let out a shaky laugh. "Because you're young enough not to judge me yet. Or maybe because I'm tired of keeping my mouth shut." Her words lodged in me, sharp and electric. I didn't know if I should feel honored or terrified. Maybe both. "Claire," I said quietly, "you don't have to keep it shut. Not with me." She froze. For a heartbeat, the world seemed to hold still, the cicadas, the faint hum of traffic, even the breeze. Her hand twitched like she might reach for mine, then stopped halfway, curling into a fist against her thigh. "You don't know what you're saying," she whispered. "Maybe not," I admitted. "But I know what I feel when I'm sitting here with you." Her breath caught. That was the moment, the line, the edge of it. She stared at me like she was measuring the cost of stepping closer, of letting this be real. "You shouldn't," she said finally, her voice breaking just a little. "You shouldn't feel that way about me." I swallowed hard. "And if I do anyway?" Her eyes met mine again, and this time she didn't look away. She didn't flinch. Her face was open, vulnerable, stripped of every polite mask she wore around the neighborhood. "If you do," she whispered, "then we're already in trouble." The words hit me like a confession, like an invitation she didn't mean to give but couldn't take back. The space between us shrank, not by movement, but by everything unsaid, everything hovering in the air. I could see it in her eyes, that same conflict mirrored in mine. Wanting and resisting, shame and longing tangled together. I almost said it then. I almost told her I didn't care about the trouble, about the lines we weren't supposed to cross. The words pressed against my throat, desperate to get out. But instead I stayed silent. And in that silence, her gaze burned into mine, unblinking, heavy with all the things we couldn't say. The silence itself became the question. What now? The silence between us was so taut it felt like one wrong breath could snap it. Then Claire leaned back, breaking eye contact, rubbing her forehead with her hand like she was trying to wipe the moment away. "I can't do this," she muttered. My chest tightened. "Do what?" "Pretend you're just the kid from 2 houses down. Pretend I don't know who you are." Her words hit me harder than I expected. "What do you mean, know who I am?" She let out a shaky exhale. "Your aunt. Mary Ann. We went to college together. She used to drag me to family dinners sometimes, years ago. You were just a boy then." The memory came flooding back before I could stop it, blurry snapshots of being 12 years old at my aunt's house, the tall woman with the easy laugh who smelled faintly of vanilla. I remembered her handing me a second helping of mashed potatoes, joking that a growing boy needed more than one plate. I hadn't thought about that night in years. "That was you," I said slowly, stunned. Her smile was small, almost pained. "That was me. And now you're not a boy anymore." The words landed with a weight that made my stomach twist. Suddenly, everything between us, the glances, the touches, the silence, shifted into sharper relief. It wasn't just forbidden because of age or circumstance. It was forbidden because she had known me before, when the distance between us was measured in more than years. "You should have said something," I murmured. I didn't think it mattered. Until today. Her voice cracked, the first real crack in her composure. But when I saw you carry that ladder like it was nothing, when I realized how much time has passed, I couldn't stop seeing the difference. And it scared me. I leaned forward, desperate to bridge the gulf opening between us. Claire, I'm not that boy anymore. You see that, don't you? Her eyes glistened, and for a moment I thought she might cry. But instead, she gave a small, bitter laugh. That's exactly the problem. I do see it. The porch felt smaller, the air heavier. I wanted to reach for her, to prove that whatever history tied us didn't erase what was happening now. But before I could move, a voice called from the sidewalk. Claire? You home? It was my aunt's voice. Claire's head snapped toward the street, panic flashing across her face. She pressed her hand against my arm, firm, urgent. Don't say anything, she whispered. I froze, heart hammering as footsteps approached the porch. Claire's hand lingered on my arm longer than it should have, her grip trembling. In that fragile second before my aunt rounded the corner, her eyes locked onto mine, wide, pleading, and full of something I couldn't untangle, fear, longing, maybe both. And I realized, nothing between us would ever be simple again. My aunt's voice floated closer, casual and warm, the sound of it making my pulse spike. Claire's grip on my arm tightened. For a second, I thought she might push me inside, hide me like a secret. Instead, she just whispered again, sharp but trembling. Don't say anything. Then Marianne appeared at the porch steps, smiling like she always did. There you are, she said to Claire. I saw the ladder out. Thought I'd check in. Her eyes flicked to me briefly. Oh, hey. Didn't know you two talked. We don't, Claire answered too quickly, then forced a small laugh. He was just helping with the paint. Marianne nodded, bought it instantly, and launched into some story about a mutual friend from years ago. Claire stood there nodding at the right moments, but her hand never left her side of the porch rail, knuckles pale from gripping it so tightly. I didn't say a word. Couldn't. My chest burned with everything I wasn't allowed to show. Eventually, Marianne left, waving cheerfully as she went back down the street. The silence that followed was heavier than anything before. Claire sank back into her chair like her strength had been drained. This is exactly why we can't, she whispered, almost to herself. I sat across from her, leaning forward, desperate. Can't what? Pretend nothing's happening? Pretend you don't look at me the way I look at you. Her jaw tightened, but her eyes betrayed her. They softened, flickered, broke. You don't understand, she said, shaking her head. It's not just wrong, it's reckless. People talk. People remember. I don't care about people. The words came out harsher than I meant, but I didn't pull them back. I care about you. Sitting here, trying to pretend you don't feel it too, it's driving me insane. She inhaled sharply, hands pressed flat against the table like she needed to anchor herself. You think I don't feel it? God, that's the problem. I do. Every second you're here. Her voice cracked, and for the first time, she let the truth out, raw, unpolished, dangerous. I moved before I could think, closing the space between us. My hand brushed hers, tentative at first, then firmer when she didn't pull away. She looked at me like she was standing on the edge of a cliff, unsure if she'd jump or turn back. Say it, I whispered. Her lips parted, but she hesitated. Seconds stretched. Then, barely audible. If I let this happen, I don't come back from it. Then don't come back, I said. The words hung there, heavy, impossible to take back. She searched my face, eyes shining with conflict, and then, finally, she let her hands slip fully into mine. No kiss, no dramatic gesture. Just that quiet surrender, that decision made without words. And in that fragile moment I knew, whatever came next, we weren't walking away. Her hand stayed in mine, warm, steady now. No more trembling, no more pulling away. It was such a small thing, but it felt like the whole weight of the world shifted onto that moment. For weeks, I'd told myself I was imagining this. That the glances were accidental, the silences empty. But now, sitting across from Claire on that quiet porch, there was no more pretending. "We can't undo this," she said softly. "I don't want to," I answered. Her eyes searched mine, waiting for hesitation. When she didn't find any, something in her face changed. The lines of regret softened, and for the first time, I saw her without the walls, without the practiced composure. Just her. She leaned back, exhaling like she'd been holding her breath for years. "Do you know how long it's been since someone made me feel seen?" I swallowed, unsure if I should answer. "I see you now." The words weren't polished. They weren't perfect. But they were the truth. And she believed me. The cicadas kept buzzing, the sky darkened into that deep indigo before night fully takes hold. Time felt suspended, but I knew it wasn't. We were making a choice, one that would ripple into everything after this. "Your aunt," she began, but I shook my head. "We'll figure it out. She doesn't need to know." "Not yet." Claire gave a small, almost disbelieving smile. "You make it sound so simple." "Not simple," I admitted. "Just worth it." The silence that followed wasn't the dangerous kind anymore. It was full, heavy, but in a way that steadied us both. She finally let her fingers intertwine with mine, sealing what had been circling us since the first brush of a hand, the first unspoken look. "We didn't kiss that night. We didn't need to." The decision itself was more intimate than anything else. When I finally stood to leave, she walked me to the gate. The air was cool, filled with the faint scent of fresh paint and summer grass. Before I stepped off her porch, she touched my arm one last time. "Don't walk away this time," she whispered again. But this time, it wasn't a plea. It was a promise. And I didn't. I looked back at her once, the light from her porch framing her like a secret I was lucky enough to be trusted with. For the first time, I felt certain. This wasn't just a dangerous spark. It was something that had already taken root in both of us. Maybe people would judge. Maybe it wouldn't be easy. But for once, I wasn't afraid of the trouble. Because she was worth it. Sparkles, did you enjoy the story? What moment hit you the hardest, the silence, the confession, or the choice at the end? Speech Balloon, what kind of stories would you like to hear next?